Kia ora, good afternoon. Welcome to this session where here it's New Zealand 2 p.m. and today we're going to be talking about creating professional real-world Azure functions with .NET 6. Right? So if you've been working with Azure Functions, we're going to explore in here I would say a proper way or by leveraging good practices and creating Azure Functions with .NET 6. Right. So my name is Marcel Medina. Let me just go on to this second slide. The thing in here, I just need to share my screen and then we can go from that. Just a minute. This is the screen. All right. So just introduce myself. So my name is Marcel Medina. I'm a software developer and Azure specialist. I've been work on the field for nearly 20 years as a software developer. I'm also like a playground enthusiast and coder because I'm a co-founder of playgokids.com, which is a mobile app created like for families with kids, and currently working as a lead developer at my food bag. In my technical blog is tech.playgokids.com. So as you can see, I'm also a Microsoft trainer and Azure architect. I'd just like to introduce you to the user group. So we are like Code Night, a group of developers from New Zealand. And as you can see, always like highlight that we are developers that love coding and we follow best practices on software development languages and technologies, mainly focus on the Microsoft stack. The intention of the user group is to enable developers with practical knowledge and to excel and launch their careers. So this is an open group for anyone that likes development. And I invite you to check more about it or check like the previous sessions or join in perhaps like help the user group, right, with like sessions as well. Let's just get going. In here, like on this agenda, we're gonna check. We're looking like how to create professional real world Azure functions, but we're gonna explore like requirements, right, and practices, and we're gonna have demos, right. By the end of the session, you're gonna learn a little bit more how to proper create solutions using Azure Functions. So professional real world Azure function. Right? That's a very subjective topic. So I want like just to bring this onto an objective uh, goal, right? And where we can measure like if what you're developing is a professional or not. Right? So what's a professional real world solution? A solution that meets the requirements, following recommended practices. This is me putting um, my thoughts around that because as you develop, you always fulfilling like the requirements specified for like the solutions, but you need to follow some guidance, right? And that dictates how the solutions should be created. So you might be questioning like what sort of requirements and what sort of practices, right? So this is the purpose of the session. So we're going to go and dive onto that, right? So on solutions, when we look at like requirements, well, we should look at functional and non-functional requirements, right? In with that, let's see like what's a functional requirement is. A functional requirement defines a function of a system or its components, where a function is described as a specification of behavior between input and output. So like your implementation, you're going to receive like a request, you're going to have like a response. What happens in between, the behavior of the solution, that's how you achieve like that's your functional implementation, right? So that's the functional one, and that's the link. And a non-functional requirement is a requirement that specifies a criteria that can be used to judge the operation of a system rather than specific behaviors. So the non-functional requirement provide support for you to reach the functional implementation, right? So it kind of wraps around your functional implementation, and they work together, right? So on a system, you're always going to end up with both requirements. And if you're not looking at non-functional requirements, something's wrong. So I think like for your awareness, you always like need to combine those. Right, so non-functional, and we have the link in here if you want to check later. And some non-functional requirements. You're gonna see that we have like lots. And this is not a comprehensive list. So we can have like many more, right? Than those that are here. In general, it's the developer role in the architect of the solution to look at those non-functional requirements, right? I think like in here, like when we look at this on this presentation, we're going to be looking at non-functional requirements, because the business domain, the logic, that's not like the focus of the session. It's going to be around these non-functional requirements and around practices. So this is like also the link to the non-functional requirements. But you can see there are lots. Right? So for you to get a perfect solution, you need to look at the individual non-functional requirements and use it like your solutions, right? And we also have practices, right? So practices help us implementing the non-functional requirements, depending on the environment that where you are. On Azure, we should reference the Microsoft Azure Well Architect framework, a set of guiding tenets that can be used to improve the quality of the workload. So we're talking about like Azure. Right? We're looking at Azure Functions. So this framework provides some guidance for you to reach more easily, or I would say more easily, but um, with like more objective um, the non-functional requirements that you might have, and it has like some tenets in there, like reliability. You check like your solution is reliable, it's available. You have like cost optimization, so it's it could be like one of your non-functional requirements. Operational excellence, how you're going to maintain the solution. Performance efficiency, about the performance, what you can do like with the services on Azure to help you with that. Security, so it's a very comprehensive framework that helps you bridging and achieving those non-functional requirements. And so we have like the Azure service, but we also have like the implementation when you're coding on that. So when coding, like developers should adopt design patterns to solve common problems. In software engineering, a software design pattern is a general reusable solution to a commonly occurring problem within a given context of a software design. So it's an implementation for a common problem. And that's a combination, right? So you have your non-functional requirements and you combine with the practices, and then you get to have a professional like solution. So that's the link for the framework and what the software design pattern is. And now it comes like combining those, right? Requirements and practices. So like, let's explore some like non-functional requirements and how to leverage common practices on Azure Functions, leveraging .NET 6. I'm gonna bring like some ways of how we can help like with discoverability, with security, logging, reusability, testability. I feel that in general, like those are the the ones I always cover like on solutions. It's just like for me, just a no-brainer. And you might be questioning like maybe discoverability is not like a case for you because on your functional you're not leveraging HTTP triggers. So it could be like not the case, but I feel that in general I'm doing like integrations and we have like a use case for that. Security, I can say that all of our solutions should be covered, and that's also something that always need to be part of solutions. Logging as well. There's no solution without logging. And on reusability, testability, if you have like solutions or previous implementations and you have components that you are sharing, so you need to think about that. You're not going to implement your functional requirements in isolation within this function. You would need to think about creating libraries or components. And when those are reusable, you need to implement in a way that you leverage those components in other applications as well can leverage those components. Let's start with the discoverability. And we have like an extension, Open API extension, available for us on .NET 6. And that comes as a NuGet package. Right? In specific for out of processes, Azure functions. Right? So if you are aware, so we have like in process and out of a process functions. And within process functions, we have when we're creating that like the OpenAPI extensions, you can easily do it with Visual Studio 2022. But when you're doing out of process functions, you need to leverage this NuGet package. So currently it's not available on Visual Studio. So we need to do like some tweaks. I'm not sure if you are aware, but the future of Azure Functions are on out of process functions. So that's one main goal that Microsoft is trying to achieve. And as part of the roadmap, that's the where things are gonna go with functions. And within this, so we have like this Open API extension. That's a NuGet package that we can use in auto process functions. Right, that's step one. That when we're creating a solution, and then we need to modify the hook on the function, right? Because we need to make sure that we're leveraging the OpenAPI extension. So that's the second step. And the third step is where you add decorators, attributes on your methods to allow for the OpenAPI to be exposed, right? For consumption. Let me show an example because that then becomes clear. Let me just go in here. So I have like this solution. I have put the link. Let me put like the link just a minute, on for the repository, so you can have a look later. I'm gonna put like on the chat, but this source code is available here on the link, and I put like also on the chat, so that's available in there, and you can have a look. And so you can see that under like this folder in here we have the OpenAPI in process, out of process. Like it's very simple for you to create. I just have this already created. But if I was to come in here, I can search like for Azure Functions, right? And I'm gonna put just call one like called demo. So in here you can see on the selection, right? I have .NET 6 and .NET 6 isolated. The .NET 6 represents the in-process Azure Functions. And you can see that we have this implementation already available. So if you're gonna go with in-process, you have the OpenAPI extension available from Visual Studio. But as I mentioned, the future is on the out-of-process functions, but we don't have currently the extension. So there are ways for us to do that, right? That I just mentioned. I'm gonna cancel this one because I have that. You can see here. So first step, right? What I did, I just put like a reference on my NuGet package to this NuGet package reference in here. So extensions.openapi. That's the first step after you create this new function. The second step would be for you to hook the OpenAPI extension. All right, so you need to configure like that, and you can see them leverage the extension available here. And the third step is to decorate our function. By default, when you create, you don't get that without a process. So you need to include those decorators in here, right? And for the in process, so that was, if I was to create that, that would come like with everything, right, all together. And let's run like first, I'm gonna run the in process. So you can see, let me pull like this one as a startup. But you're gonna see that in terms of discoverability, we work with Swagger. And Swagger allows us to expose our APIs. So depending on where you're going to make it available, it could be API management or on Azure, or if you want to consume that with any other service, you could provide like the Swagger definition and integrate your APIs. So let me just run this one. When it's running, then we can see here, by default, it comes with the function, but we have other renderers. And those are the ones implemented by the OpenAPI extension. If I was to call like this function here, this one is just like an example. Let me come with that. I'm using like the Thunder client, as you can see here. If you don't have this extension, highly recommend you to use. And I'm gonna just query, right? I need to pass name the query string. All right. I put like in here name equals Marcel. So it says, hello, Marcel. So it's just executing my function in here. So that's the function itself running from the in process, right? Another thing, I can just grab that's in here, this one. Let me grab like this URL here, and we can check, not this one, this one. So you can see that things are working, but let me bring this one in here, right? So we have like the Swagger definition for that. That's the in-process one. But we can see, we can run from here as well. So if I was to do it like that, right, 200, I get that my name's in here. And we have like, when you look at the Swagger JSON, so we can see like the specification. And that specification is the version 2 of the specification. If I want to run another version 3, I can just come and go open API / v3. I'm gonna have like the version 3 specification. If I prefer like YAML, we also can do the YAML as well, right? So that's what we have in terms of discoverability. That's gonna help us to integrate our function. Let me run as well the outer process. So you can see that things are gonna get started. I have the same, so I could just, that's the function in here. When I look at that, I can do like a get or a post. Is this the one that's in process? Out of process. This one is just gonna say welcome to Azure Functions, right? So if I come with that, I don't need to pass anything. Is that the one? Let me see. No, not that. That's it's function 1. All right, function 1, send. Oh, welcome to Azure Functions. And if I am taking that, which is exactly the same as before, let me put it, and I'm gonna bring, so you can see that Swagger is being loaded. It came up, same as here, executing, no dramas, things are there, and the definition is the same. Well, I would say not necessarily the same because we have the other one was requiring a parameter, where in here it's a little bit different. We don't have that. But if I was to refresh, so it's much less, right? Just lesser. That's what we have in terms of discoverability. Let's go back to the presentation and we can explore another non-functional requirement. Well, security with key vault secrets, right? So what happens is that secrets, like they shouldn't be on configuration files, they should be hosted on key vaults. And that's also a no-brainer, like things that need to be done, right? So when you're putting a solution like in production, the first step for you to achieve that, you need to enable this managed identity on Azure for your function. The way how you do it, you go like to the managed identity tab, and you under like system assigned or user assigned, you need to turn it on. Right? With that, what happens is that their Azure Active Directory gets an entry or a service, a registration, right, of your application onto Active Directory, and you have like a reference created in there. That's pretty much what it does. And with that ID, right, the object ID that's created, we can go to our key vault, and then we can maybe, I don't know if that's too small, but I'm gonna go on the Azure, and I can show like in more details. But we're gonna go to the Azure, and then you need to create this access policy, and you reference your Azure function. After you do that, then you go on the function and you configure the secret. Right? But you can see that we have a key vault reference. So when you look in here, so that's a key vault reference. Different from a configuration that when you go straight to the function and configure in there. Let me go like to this demo I have in here. I'm gonna stop like the function, but you've seen the API. I have this key vault project in here. Let me pull like as a startup. When I look in here, it's very simple, but what it does is that it tries grabbing the environment variable. If I don't have environment variable, it returns not available. Right? In here, if I'm running locally, I don't have that. I don't have any environment variable. I'm going to have this returned. Let's just execute that so we can see how it works locally. All right, this is launching. We have that, and I can go to Thunder Client and execute that. Right, so we can see not available. Let me go now to the Azure instance. And bring that. All right, I'm gonna zoom in, but let's go first to the Azure, right? So we have in here the Azure function. I have previously, like before I started like the session, I came in here and created like this function, but you can see that we can create this identity in here. Let me just go and zoom in. All right, so you come in here onto the identity, and then we can turn it on, right? And that generates a principal ID for me. And with that, what we can do, we can go to non-application sites. I think I was too quick. We can go to the key vault, and on the key vault, we can see that, well, we're going to have a secret. So we have a secret defined in here. If I look at the secret that I defined before, show a secret, an important secret, right? But we have the secret defined. But how does the app come and grab that sort of information? So we mentioned about the access policy, and with the access policy, so we can see that that was added. That's pretty much the function that was created, and it has like two permissions, right? To get and list the secrets. So once you do that, that's the second part. We have the third part that's required for that to be done. So we can go to the function, and we can go like onto configuration, right? So configuration here. And as we jump in there, we're gonna see like all of the configuration settings. But you can see this one, right? Secret. Let me zoom in as well. But you can see that I have the secrets. I have other, can I say, application settings. For everything here, I have app service config. But in this particular case, I have Azure automatically identifies that this is a key vault reference, right? So that's very important. You need to have this green tick in here available for you to be sure that your variable or you're consuming the service on Azure on the key vault. And if I come in here on the function, right, I can execute from here, and I can just run my function directly from this tab. You're gonna see that we're gonna get the secret that comes with key vault. Right? So that's coming here. Right? So that's pretty much what we had on key vault. So that's something that should be like a no-brainer for you as well. So that what makes our solutions more professional. Let's come back to the slides. All right, and I have this link in here where we have an example that you can grab the source as well and explore more details. Logging. All right, so how do we do it? Well, we leverage application sites. On that same Azure function, we had like the monitor. Right? Nowadays, like for functions that you create, Azure asks, or if you're doing from the UI, Azure provides a way for you to enable and select the application sites during creation. I think like it should be like the case for you to always have that, unless you are leveraging a separate service that's not application sites, right? So if you're leveraging any other service, or you have like a custom logging components implemented, then yeah, like you wouldn't use application sites. But application sites works well with Azure Functions, so you should always have that. And the way how it gets hooked onto the function is that we leverage app insights and instrumentation key. There is one particular thing with that now Azure is shifting to a connection string. So it's important, like when you're provisioning your Azure instances, well, Azure function instances, you're gonna get like those two by default, which is interesting because Azure is putting like the instrumentation key, connection string all together. But at some stage, they are going to not use the instrumentation key anymore, and only the connection string is going to be used. So that's why we have both provisioning at the moment on Azure Functions. All right, so that this is the article that says about the connection string. And if I go back like to the solution that's running on Azure, all right, so as you look in here, so we have like the monitor, like because it's integrated, it's gonna show me the executions. If I want, right, so let me go here so you can see there was like some successes. If I want to see more details, I can see from here, right, what happened. I can also go straight to application sites, right? So I could go like from here and do my queries as well. But it's well integrated on Azure Functions. And another thing is that, let's go back to that, configuration. And as I mentioned, we have the application settings. So that was created automatic by Azure when I provision. Some stage we're only gonna have this one. Right? That's the way going forward. Let's go back to the presentation. All right, so we have like also like the same implementation available on this article. And reusability, testability, how you do it? We do it with dependency injection, right? So dependency injection, like in software engineering, dependency injection is a design pattern in which an object receives other objects that it depends on. A form of inversion of control, dependency injection aims to separate the concerns of constructing objects and using them, leading to loosely coupled programs. So what happens is that you're going to end up like your solutions you're gonna have like components that you get to create and reuse. And after like you create those components, you a way for you to use them on your solutions is by leveraging dependency injection. And with the dependency injection, you have this decoupling between the caller and the implementation by using interfaces. So that's a way of, like in .NET 6, we leverage the service collection, which is the Microsoft dependency injection container. That's the one that comes by default with .NET 6. And let me go, that's the dependency injection link. And how you do it on both, like in process or out of a process, is that you create a startup. So that doesn't come automatically. So you need to create this startup on your functions, and you need to leverage this functions startup. So you need to define, okay, I want my assembly to have a startup function class that implements the functions startup. And in here we can inject, right? That's the dependency injection happening. In here we can inject, in my case, I'm injecting a singleton of a service that I have, email service. Right? Um, this is because this email service has an implementation, a particular component that does email sending. Right? You could have any other components in your solution, and you need to a way for you to hook onto that by leveraging dependency injection, and that's the recommended practice. If I go like to my solution as a demo, let me stop that. I have like another repository. Yeah, let me put that one because I don't know why every time I open this should be the other one. The repository for that is this one. I'm gonna put like on the chat, and you can leverage that like by exploring on your own time. So have a look at that if you want just to see an example of how to hook by using the functions startup. And that's the implementation. Like we have a startup implementation, and when you create like the function, you don't have that, so you need to create. You come with that. I'm just saying, okay, this is the name of my solution, my project. So just hook on the assembly, the functions startup onto this assembly that implements the inherits from functions startup. Right? We have also this package that we have for dependency injection. Right? I think that's also something to mention, that you need to have that, the dependency injection available. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to leverage this the hooks that come with the functions startup. And then I have the singleton. If I jump to the email service, well, it's more like a poco, like just like a fake implementation, right? But I could have anything. And you can see this is a separate library, right? So you could have like other libraries implemented in your solution. Then you're just reusing what's available, right? It's really a no-brainer, but it's important for you to have that in mind. And then, because we're using dependency injection, after I have, well, I put like a singleton for an email service that implements the email service. And this is my function here, implementation. It's called function name send email. But you can see I have the interface being on the constructor. You know, on the body of my function, I have the, okay, I'm just grabbing an email and then I'm sending the email. I have like hard-coded subjects and body. but it's just like just for the sake of the demo. And if I run that, right, I could do it just to put in here. Let me, it's launching, and then I'm gonna come with the Thunder client, and the Thunder client has like my request, which is a post I'm providing as part of the body, the email, and as I send, I had previously put like some breakpoints, but you can see the things in here are just coming in the email. Well, that's a dynamic one. It's going to be resolved, and it has like the email available. And it's going to return the results. That's okay, right? So that's a way for us to do like dependency injection. Let me go back. With that, I think like we are pretty much covered, like in terms of the non-functional requirements, the ones that should be like essential, or you need to have that sort of mindset when setting up your Azure functions. And that will determine how you well continue doing like implementing like professional Azure functions on well at work and for your clients, right? I would like just to thank you for that's the link in here. I'd like to thank you for checking like this session. I reckon if you didn't have the chance to check like the whole session, this is going to be recorded and you can further check that later on or come back to the meetup and check like the sessions, right, that we had on the Global Azure events in the previous sessions on Code Night. With that, we are just like finalizing our session. The Global Azure event continues, and so that today is the last day. But because I'm here like in New Zealand, so it's gonna extend up to Sunday morning. And in here, like we still have like a bunch of sessions coming. So I recommend you to have a look and check those. And with that, I really appreciate. And we'll catch up in the next session of the meetup that's available soon. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.